All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. First and foremost, congratulations on your recent Tech Hub Strategy Development Grant Award. It's a huge achievement. We received over or nearly 200 applications for this award type, and all of them were extremely competitive. And it's been such a joy to learn about all of your regions and the consortia that are based there that are really driving the economic development in a given technology area. So we're super excited to be here today. We hope you are as well. I want to offer everyone who is representing a consortium here today to just go ahead and drop your name in the chat if you want to say hello to each other. We are hoping that this is the start of a cohort that we're building among the Tech Hubs program. My name is Annie Colarusso. I recently joined the Economic Development Administration as Tech Hubs Deputy Director for Program Operations. I'm just going to start today off by giving an overall framing for what this webinar is going to entail, and then I'll pass it over to some of my colleagues on the Tech Hubs team to walk you through the nuts and bolts of the actual award. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I just want to zoom out for a moment to underscore the significance of your Strategy Development Grant Award. Like I mentioned, we received nearly 200 applications for this, and this cohort here was selected as an investment by the U.S. Department of Commerce to enable your consortium's ability to increase your local coordination, to further develop your already impressive consortia, and to continue to mature and hone your technology-based economic development strategy. So just to maybe touch on the program goals, you all have heard us say this a million times, so I won't go deep, but I will just hit the top lines. I think as I've continued to work on this program, I and the rest of us really see these dual roles that the Tech Hubs program serves. First, as an investment in technology areas ranging from advanced energy to critical mineral supplies to like the future of quantum, that have a place-based aspect to them and really are integral to U.S. economic and national security. The second sort of purpose, I think, or programmatic goal is ensuring that the industries of the future and the jobs that they generate really do start, grow, and remain in the United States. And not just in the United States, but all across the United States. Our next slide will give you a little visual of just the geographic spread of where our awards are. And I think that this map is really illustrative of something that's core to the Tech Hubs program, which is geographic diversity, and really recognizing the strengths and richness of the talent and technologies that really are being cultivated all across the country. Today's webinar, we're going to walk you through what to expect going into 2024 as a recent Tech Hubs Strategy Development Grant awardee, including how to accept your award. A lot of today's webinar will be a little bit more compliance heavy and walking you through the systems of how to actually accept your award so that we can get you your dollars. I think you've all heard me say this, so we can get you your dollars and you can get to work going into 2024. But it's also, I think, the start of what we hope is a continued relationship with this cohort. I'm joined here today by Jason Rittenberg of the State Science and Technology Institute, SSTI, who's going to be working with you all through our community of practice. And going into 2024, we're also going to be offering an additional feedback session with a technologist in your field. Some of you joining us today are also part of a designated Tech Hub and have received these sessions already. We're going to offer a similar session to our Strategy Development Consortia, and so we'll be in touch early 2024 about what that will look like. And again, I think that we're really hoping to work with you all as you do the boots on the ground work of continuing to develop the work that you've put forth in your scopes of work and your budgets. And to serve as a resource and partner with you as you do so. Just one note on timing on your awards. Thank you all for working with our team on curing requests that we have for you as they relate to your scope of work and your budget. I know there's been a lot of back and forth with our grants team, and we really do appreciate the responsiveness. Our team is working as fast as we can to process those awards so we can issue them in the coming weeks. For those of you that have not yet finalized your scope of work or your budget with your grant specialist, we recognize that it's the holidays and that your team and ours are taking some needed time off, but please do continue to work with them so that we can process those awards in an expeditious manner. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Jason just to walk you through what's to come in the coming months through our community of practice. But I encourage you all to drop questions in the chat. Even if we can't answer them today, we'll take them into consideration so that we can either reach out to you directly or answer a question that you all may have through email correspondence. I'll also, after this meeting, share the deck and share this recording so that you have it and that your teams have it for future reference. But thank you again for joining us, and congratulations on your recent award.
Well, thank you, Annie, and want to start off by just echoing the congratulations to everyone. Obviously, again, competitive process, so that's great that you guys were able to receive this funding. I also know that you want to get into the kickoff portion so you can start using the funds, so I won't take too much of your time here, but again, want to make you aware of the opportunity that's available to you to get some additional assistance in connection with your peers. So I'm Jason Rittenberg, Vice President at the State Science and Technology Institute, although we tend to just go by SSTI because we've got a long history of working not just with states, but also with local and regional nonprofits that do investing, that do entrepreneurship support, tech development assistance, and some workforce programming as well, institutions of higher education, national labs, and others who are in this field. So we've been supported by EDA over the past year and change at this point to work across EDA's investment priority for tech-based economic development, having connections through monthly meetings on different topic areas, doing webinars, providing some technical assistance as well, and putting together information articles. And so 2 ways that we're planning on having, especially the strategy development grants group, be able to engage with this. So 1, you are all very welcome to participate in the broad TBEG community of practice. We've got a webinar that's coming up in mid-January that we're doing in partnership with NATO Research Foundation, focused on tech-based economic development as part of the SEDS planning process. And then we'll be doing, again, webinars going on from there, especially on data issues, on kind of customer tracking, communications, and different things broadly important to organizations in this field. And then we continue to have regular get-togethers with what we call sub-communities of practice. Currently, we have those active in the areas of risk capital, entrepreneurship, development programming, and then lab to market initiatives. So if those are relevant to the work that you or some of your partners for the Strategy Development Award are doing, please do take a look at the website there and get signed up. You can also reach out to the email address that you see on the screen that contacts the whole TBED community of practice team, so you can connect with us. And then we've got additional reports and information on the website. Some of those we've been teeing up over this year, and we'll be releasing a little faster clip in 2024. In addition to participating in that broader community of practice, we're also intending specifically to have the strategy development grantees be able to participate in a dedicated subcommunity. So we'll have some more information about getting involved with that, but we anticipate that a lot of you will be interested in talking with some of your peers, kind of understanding how people are approaching planning, specifically in the context of the Tech Hubs program with an eye toward designation or future implementation award, or just more broadly having a tech-focused cluster and planning effectively for that. We're going to start things off with probably doing more of a listening and a conversational session, so keep an eye out for some outreach from us that'll happen early next year. And again, as Amy said, in the meantime, please feel free to send us a note with any questions, or I'll stay on for a while longer so I can handle things in the chat too if any are relevant to us. And thank you. Unless there's anything immediately and I don't see anything there, I will just go ahead and turn things over to Misha McDaniel, who I believe is next.
Yes, thanks, Jason. So we're going to go ahead and talk about your award package. And to introduce myself, my name is Nisha McDaniel. I am a program officer with the Tech Hubs team. And I know that you all have not received your award packages yet, and some of you may not, because I see some consortium members along with lead applicants. Really great turnout. Thanks for coming, you all. But once the award package is transferred to the lead applicant, this is what's going to be inside. The first thing is the notice of award, which I'll go into in more detail because it's a very important document. It has your award number, which is used to associate your grant with various payment systems and our external reporting mechanisms. It also has your authorized budget, which some of you are still working with your EDA liaison to help finalize, and also just a smattering of the terms and conditions that will apply to the award. It's a very good high-level document that keeps track of the relevant information, contacts, and duration of your award. Another element of your award package is going to be your authorized budget, which we already talked about a little bit, but I also want to highlight the matching funds. Um, with the exception of one subset of grantees, all of the grants have a matching requirement, and that grant rate, the match rate, is going to be established within your approved budget, and it's going to persist throughout the whole term of your award unless you work with your grant specialist and EDA contact to change that. You're responsible for tracking the use of those. A lot of folks on this call were using in-kind contributions, staff time, things like that. It's going to be very important for you to keep track of those so that we know that the grant rate is being met and so that we can authorize the distribution of funds. So definitely share, socialize your authorized budget, particularly if it's changed since you initially submitted. So cost principles, these are things that you can think about when you're identifying a cost that that probably falls within a general category within your approved budget, but you're not quite sure whether or not it's allowable. Of course, your first point of contact can be your project officer, grant specialist. They definitely can help you resolve that. But in the interim, something to remember is that all project costs should be necessary, reasonable, and allocable. Definitions are to the side and associated directly with the approved scope of work for your award. So that I wanted to share that so that there's transparency into the uniform guidance, which we use for administrative decisions related to the award and also structuring what is allowable and what's not. So that's kind of our source documentation for the cost and allowability of cost in this award. Budget amendments. So we realize that things change over the period of performance, also known as the award term. And some of the changes are allowable without having to go through a formal amendment process, which ultimately is dependent on grants officer approval and some associated documentation. But that requirement does not apply to variations from the approved budget that are greater than or equal less than 10%. So if you, within a particular line item, if it is a little bit different from your approved budget, as long as that difference is less than or equal to 10% of the total cost of the budget, that is the total EDA share, the total match share, less than or equal to 10% doesn't require an amendment. If it is greater than that, that 10% within one line item, let's say that there are unexpected personnel costs, or for some reason you want to add on a major supply line item that was not included in the approved budget, that's something that you're going to have to negotiate and discuss with your grant specialist and EDA contact. That they will tell you the paperwork that's required to submit that amendment. So another exception is the transfer. Not everybody is charging indirect costs of this award, but if for some reason you need to um, you need to move costs from indirect to direct, that is something that also requires grants officer approval and paperwork and a submission. Next, we can go into talking about specific line items, one of our favorites, it's contractual. So as part of the consortium model, a lot of the grantees in this program will be using contractors and subawards. Now, within the strategy development grants, subawards can be provided to consortium members to provide specialized services that would not otherwise be available on the general market. Those roles within the project are reserved for contractors. Contractors are subject to, with the exception of state entities, if you're going to have a contractor, you're going to be within this award, you're going to be subject to federal procurement rules. And there are 3 levels of cost thresholds that apply to the types of procedures that you're going to be used to satisfy federal procurement requirements. Those thresholds are the micro purchase threshold, which applies to, let's say you're going to have a contract for a facilitator to come in and talk to your consortium or your board. If that's $5,000 total over the course of the award, the documentation is relatively minimal. For small purchases, something that's going to be, let's say, in the $20,000 range, there's a certain set of procedures associated with that. A little bit lighter of a lift. However, if you're going to allocate significant funds over $250,000 to a contractor to carry out some services or to provide similar um, items for this award, that's something that you're going to have to use a bid process to carry out, because sole source, it's when you procure a contract and you assign that contract to one person, particularly when you're over the $250,000 limit. Sole sourcing, that is not allowable. It is allowable in some very rare exceptions, but you want to talk to your project officer, grant specialist, to make sure that your case for sole sourcing is strong. It's not something that we typically allow, but it's something to discuss if you think that it's necessary for your project. And subawards also have some additional requirements that are that incorporate monitoring, but that's something that we'll talk about in an additional slide. There we go. So a lot of people use contractor, sub-awardee, co-recipient, subrecipient, all these terms interchangeably. This visualization is intended to help you see and internalize how these grants are structured and where the responsibility lies. So the lead recipient, that is the person whose organization is associated with the authorized representative. The person who accepts the award is legally bound to the contractual terms and obligation of the awards. That is on the lead recipient side. And if you are identified within the budget as a sub-awardee, then you are subject to the same rules and regulations that the lead recipient is, except you will not be reporting to EDA directly. You'll be reporting to your lead recipient. You also have to do similar, this is all going to be dictated by the relationship between the subrecipient and the lead recipient, but sometimes people aren't quite sure. So we just wanted to provide this illustration so that you know the difference between these 2 very critical roles to carrying out the scope of work on the project. Scope of work. This is something that I believe everyone had to submit as a requirement for the award, and it may have changed a little bit since you initially submitted your proposal. So I just want to confirm that this scope of work that's included within your award package is what's actually going to be referred to, monitored, and kind of the source for whether or not activities, expenses, et cetera, sometimes staff, are allowable and approved for the project. So we're looking at this scope of work, and the period of performance for the scope of work started on November 1st. We know we did the announcement back in October, and we started the period from which you can start to request eligible expenses. That's already started. However, even though the awards aren't already distributed, you will be able to request payments for allowable approved expenses that were incurred starting November 1st. If you have specific questions about that, definitely follow up on your unique inquiries with your grant specialist. However, if you have to make any changes to your scope of work, that is something that we kind of discourage because we funded your project, a proposal, because it was awesome. And we expect you to carry out a relatively similar set of activities over the period of performance. But if for some reason you do, things change, externalities that we don't always account for, you need to discuss that with your grant specialist with EDA prior to, so that we can tell you the necessary documentations to proceed with amending the award. And your staffing plan. These are going to be the key personnel associated with carrying out the scope of work. Also, maybe reporting duties if this position isn't captured within your indirect expenses. And authorized staffing should also correspond with individuals named in or roles or functions named within your scope of work. Together, your scope of work, your budget, and your authorized staffing plan are kind of a trifecta to help EDA facilitate post-award management, identify where additional support might be necessary, and be able to identify barriers and challenges to executing the project. So those three things capitalized by the staffing plan. People are critical to executing on these projects. So these roles and functions that are critical to the project are going to be captured in the staffing plan. If one of those key members goes, we know the period of performance for these awards ranges from maybe 6 months to 36 months. A lot can happen in between now and then. Just be sure to let your EDA project officer, grant specialist know within 30 days of selection so that we can update the grants file appropriately. And our specific award conditions. These are a set of award-specific terms and conditions that apply to your award. Things that are general, like uniform guidance, the Department of Commerce standard terms and conditions, which are also included in your award package, apply to kind of all awards that fall within that. But the specific awards conditions helps you stay in compliance and provides really good guidance on when reporting is, when the disbursements, our policies around payment, when you have to submit amendments for various tasks and requirements. That's where all that information is captured in. From my experience in post-award monitoring, 80% of your questions can be answered by reviewing the stacks. So please make sure you read that up front and have a good understanding of the structure at least. And your project officer will specifically review these during your kickoffs. And one of the final elements within the award package, which requires an action within the first 60 days of accepting the award within EDGE, which is our grants management system, is this waste, fraud, and abuse training. It is providing helpful information to key personnel, including the people listed on that authorized staffing plan, or anyone else, including finance staff, who are going to be in charge of oversight for the awards and key expenses and activities. If you go through that training, it's in a PowerPoint or a PDF form. At the very last, at the end of it, there's these certificates, which are shown here on this slide. We ask that you, once that training is completed, just sign associated with your EDA award number and submit that to EDA via EDGE once you complete that. And make sure you set a reminder to submit that within 60 days of accepting your grant award. And DOC standard terms and conditions, if you have questions about particular policies that apply to award, that is a great place for reference. And now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Amanda, who will talk to you about EDGE.
Thanks, Misha. Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Costi. I'm also a project officer on the TechHubs team, and I'm going to talk to you about EDGE. So you all should be familiar with it. You all submitted your applications in it. EDGE is EDA's brand new grants management system. So we're all into tech here. We're part of the TechHubs program. It's brand new tech to us. It's brand new to you. So it might have some troubles getting started. You're some of the first to actually use and manage your grants in the system. So I ask for your patience as we all kind of learn this new system together. But what you really need to know about EDGE is this is your official project file. If it's not in Edge, it didn't happen. So you need to make sure that you guys get comfortable with it. This is where you're going to accept your award. This is where you're going to request disbursement of funds and your payments. This is where all the award amendments that Misha just talked about are going to live. But this is also where you're going to submit all your required reports on time, so no one is delinquent and gets in trouble. And this is where we're going to update all your key personnel and basically maintain all of your award records. So it's important to make sure that you guys become familiar with it as we all kind of learn this new system. So since it is new, I cannot tell you how fast we are cranking out new guidance and resources, but the next few slides are just a bunch of links. So when we send you these, you have them easily accessible, but we have resources, we have guides, we have training documents that have screenshots with play-by-plays on how to do things in the system. We also have a separate team of IT folks who we can reach out to for IT support in using the Edge system moving forward. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to make sure that you have access to your Edge account. At least one person from your team does, since you submitted your application. And I know you've been working with the grants management specialist in getting your budgets and things secured. But just making sure that you know who has access, who has accounts set up in your portal, so that when you add and update your team members, you can do that. Here is a overview link. Again, these are mostly links for you guys to reference in your own time on how to walk through and make sure that you understand what your project workspace is going to look like. It will look a little bit different, obviously, than your application workspace as well. Here we do actually have the screenshot. So like I said, we have a lot of documents on the Edge website that shows you kind of these play-by-plays on how to do things. But the first thing, once your award has been signed by EDA, which as Misha noted, you may not have received that notification yet. We're still signing those. As soon as you get that email, your authorized representative will be tasked to log in and view their submitted applications and approve the award. I'm highlighting here that to make sure that you download the award package documents the first time you see them. Those are all the documents Misha just walked us through, because it's a little bit, once you move past the signature page, you can't come back to it. So this is the easiest place to download those documents. So make sure you do that first before you accept it. Similarly, you're going to just follow the steps here and review the instructions to accept or decline the package. And you're going to make sure to upload the required signed documents as well. So we do have a resource here on how to do that. That will basically walk you through this whole step. So hopefully it will be pretty easy. But if you have any questions, you can always reach out to your project officer, your grant specialist, or if you have an IT issue, we can also reach out to the Edge team. The next thing you're going to need to do in Edge is update your project team. So we know you have an awesome application team that help you put together your application, but we also know your application team may not be who's managing the award and post-award. So it's really important that we have a really clean list of who your points of contact are going to be, who has signatory authority from your organization in post-award, and who are going to be your financial managers, who are going to submit all the reports and compliance things moving forward. So this is really important that we keep your project team up to date in Edge, because this is how we will reach out to you. This is how we're going to keep track of your points of contact. So after the award is signed, this is the next thing you're going to want to do, is make sure that we're talking to the right person, because all of the emails you're going to get right now are probably going to your application team. And that's it for Edge for now. And I'm going to turn it back over to Misha to talk about what we all came here for, to learn how we get paid.
Great. Yes. So this is going to be a forward-looking part of the presentation, as we do not have the funds drawn down yet. But these are the things that you need to do as soon as you are able to accept that award, so that you are in a good position to start requesting payment from and receiving payment for this award. The first thing that you need to do is register in ASAP. And the thing, even if you have an ASAP account already, it is useful to make sure that your EDA contact has an ASAP enrollment form submitted that is associated, that can associate your existing or prior awards within the EDA with this new award, and then also your existing ASAP account. So if you do have ASAP, you still need to have an ASAP enrollment form. For those of you who are new to the ASAP payment system, you're going to have to submit a form, a very standard government form called the SF3881. There's a link to it in this slide, which you'll receive at a later date. And that is where you can record your banking information, make sure that you have the appropriate personnel on hand to sign that, and then also pay attention to the account privileges and roles that are associated with ASAP access to make sure that you have the ability to draw down funds throughout the whole period of performance in case anyone changes within your staff. There are two systems for payment. The prior slide shows some information on requesting assistance from ASAP. It's a different agency, an external agency that is managing that part of the payment request. But for the EDA portion, it's all within Edge. It's something you go to your link. There is an option where you can request disbursements, and those are the two systems that you'll be navigating for obtaining your payment. Now, this may look a little convoluted, but it works. And so what you'll have to do once you get to you identify where in Edge to request a disbursement, what you'll need to do is include the required documentation for every drawdown request. You need to include that SF-270, and it's really affirmative way, proactive way to make sure that your expenses are allowable and associated with the approved budget. You're going to record those in what we call the disbursement tracker. And so we also request that you include that in every single payment request. Only certain roles, which you will designate in Edge, can make this request. So just think proactively and have backups to make sure that your access won't be limited with regards to payment. But yeah, particular roles can submit these requests, not everybody within your organization. Once it gets to EDA, you send it in that submission. We're going to be making sure that the numbers line up, that the required documentation is there, and that it is aligned with the scope of work. And eventually that will get approved by the grants officer. You will receive a notification. And at that time where you have approval from EDA, that's when you're going to go into the ASAP system and request the same amount of funds that you requested on the EDA side. And there's another party that'll look and make sure that those numbers align, that your grant is still open, et cetera. And once all those prerequisites are approved, that's when the funds will be released via ASAP to a bank account that you designate in that form. So we're going to provide these resources within a forthcoming toolkit so that you have the documentation that you need. This at a high level. We already talked about the tracker and the SF-270. We will also want to let you know that we want to issue payments via advances. For those of you who might have an existing or a relationship with EDA, you primarily been paid via reimbursements. For most of our programs, but for Tech Hubs, our unique new program, we're going to have the ability to do advances. So it's going to be, of course, for expenses that are allowable and included on your approved budget, incurred between November 1st and when you accept your award. Those are, of course, going to be reimbursed. But after that point, if you want to just exclusively work on a reimbursement basis for payment, that's something that's going to require justification and approval from your EDA contact. And we recommend that you have a calendar invite for yourself, a reminder to submit payment every 30 days so that we don't get behind, no one gets delinquent, and we're able to accept all your subsequent reporting on progress, expenditures, which is dependent on and can be easily verified by us tracking your payment request and the expenses associated with that. Now, why would a payment request get rejected? As you can see, there are multiple different entities that review and have to approve this, and it might be that way within your organization or your consortium or your hub as well. Just some common reasons why they're rejected is like, hey, maybe you don't have the proper documentation. We need those 2 pieces of attachments that we mentioned previously. Maybe you were requesting more than with shorter than the 30-day period that's required to wait in between requesting payments. Maybe there's a discrepancy, even down to cents. We really need to make sure that the amount requested in Edge is the same as what you request in ASAP in order for that payment to go through. And don't forget your grant rate. Mind your match. Don't negate that grant rate. And the journey. There is a journey that kind of outlines the steps if you're wondering what happens and if you see status changes throughout the time when you submit the request to EDA to when funding becomes available within your bank account. This is a visualization of what's going on there. And as a reminder, just so you're on really firm footing once you are able to accept your award, make sure you register in ASAP or associate your current award with ASAP. Make sure that your team and applicable backups are set up in Edge and ASAP if applicable. Make sure that you still maintain your post-award team is in contact with your EGA project officer and grant specialist so that you can field potential questions related to the terms of your award. And we'll also recommend that you have one-on-one kickoffs with them as well so that you can be on the same page about SACs, other requirements that are specific to your award, and make sure that you get that approval within Edge before you go into ASAP and request funds. If you request funds in ASAP before it's approved in Edge, it will likely get rejected. So those are some really critical reminders to keep you on track with obtaining payments for your work. And now let me turn it back to Amanda to discuss reporting.
All right. So we're gonna dive into reporting here. So there's 3 different reports you need to think about when we talk about reporting. We have our financial report, our progress, also known as our narrative report, and our metrics. So I'm going to asterisk this slide here where you see possible consequences slide here. This is really important that you guys do pay attention to reporting deadlines. If you're not in compliance with your reporting, you could be at risk for future federal awards. So it's very important that you guys do pay attention to reporting. And also I'll note we have resources for Edge on all the slides, just to remind you if you have any IT issues there on getting those in. And we're going to dive into each of these 3 different tasks, but just want to kind of give you this overarching view that when we talk about reporting, we're talking about 3 separate things. So let's dive into the first thing is the reporting schedule. So take out your calendars right now and set these dates on your calendar. The progress report or the narrative report and the financial report, which is the SF425, are due on a semi-annual basis, and these are fixed calendar dates. So you can put these dates on your calendar. They will stay the same no matter when you sign your grant. So every April 30th and October 30th, you will have 2 reports due. So make sure whoever is managing your financials or who's writing your progress reports are up to that. Both of those will be submitted via Edge, and they will be reviewed by your EDA team. The second, and I know on the last slide I said there were 3 tasks. There's actually 4 because there are 2 different reports for the metrics. The first one is the ED 916. This is semi-annual. So this will be clocked 6 months after your start date. So your start date is November 1. So 6 months from them is too much math for me right now, but you're going to get an email. Your authorized rep will get an email from a company called Qualtrics, which is a third-party surveying service that EDA uses to submit those questions. And then the outcome survey will be annual for 5 years, which will also be submitted in the same way, which is through a Qualtrics survey. And we do have links. We have PDFs on our website of those that are linked in this presentation that you can look at the types of questions you can expect in those Qualtrics surveys. But the first one is the progress report. So again, every 6 months, we need you to report out to us what you're doing. This is your narrative report. This is your chance to tell us what you've been working on, what are your challenges. This covers your milestones. This should really closely align with your scope of work. We do have a template that we'll be giving you, an optional template that you can use to help you kind of guide you along with the information we're looking for. You're going to upload this in Edge as an attachment. So this is not something you fill out in Edge. This is something you fill out separately in a Word doc, and then you can upload it into Edge to submit it. So after that, the EDA project officer will review it. And if we have questions about anything, we can schedule follow-up calls. But this is really your opportunity to tell us what's going on in your project in a formal way. The next is the SF-425, which is a financial report. This is to be filled out in Edge. This is a cumulative report of everything to date. I do want to note there are some common misunderstandings around just definitions on this form, particularly around the definition of cash disbursement and cash receipts. So oftentimes we see people making mistakes that this is about federal share expenses incurred is your disbursements, and your receipts is how much money you've received from EDA. And these kind of things help us calculate things like cash on hand, particularly working on advances and things like this. So any staff member from your team can fill it out, but I do want to note that only the person with the authorized representative status in Edge can submit it. So it is very important that you know what roles your project team has in Edge and that you update those as well. And then again, metrics reporting. So there are 2 different metrics reports. So we have the ED 916 and the ED 917. The ED 916 is a semi-annual program activities questionnaire. So this is a cumulative report, where the ED 918 is an annual capacities outcomes report. So one is focused a lot more on your outcomes. So this is where you report on those metrics that you may have included in your scope of work. The ED 918 is not cumulative. It's just for that period of performance. And again, this will be sent via email to your authorized representative from Qualtrics. So this is pretty much the only thing you currently do not do in Edge is this metrics reporting. And then the link is here at the bottom. If you'd like to see the questions ahead of time, we have PDFs on the website that show you what questions are contained in both of those documents. So you can make sure that as you're structuring your grant, you're structuring it to make sure that you are compliant and that you're tracking some of these questions we're going to be asking. I do want to note here that not every question is going to be applicable to your type of grant, and that's okay. Saying NA not applicable is a completely acceptable answer if it doesn't apply to your scope of work. All right, award amendments. Misha touched on this earlier, but again, an award amendment is required with EDA approval when there's something that happens and you need to change the actual structure of your award. Please note, this isn't something we want you to just submit an Edge and we find out that way. If you think there's big changes that you might need an award amendment, please talk to your project officer before you fill out the paperwork in Edge. We hope, like with all reporting and like with amendments, we hope that if there's an issue with your project, that we're not hearing about it for the first time from a submitted document in Edge. We hope you reach out to us and stay in communication with us as well, because award amendments do require prior approval. So the most common award amendments are no cost time extensions, budget revisions, and changes in key personnel, all things we've already talked about. We don't want to do any retroactive amendments, so make sure that you're doing amendments during the period of performance and bringing those to your project officer's attention as soon as they happen. And do want to note, we didn't spell out all the details of all the different amendments because each award amendment has different requirements of types of paperwork that need to be submitted, which are spelled out in Edge. It won't let you submit unless you do it. So want to make sure that you're aware of that. All right, next steps. You won an award. Now what? So you have an EDA support team that we have been hinting at kind of this entire presentation. So you'll have representation from the TechHubs program staff who is working on things to support. You have an assigned grant management specialist. This is going to be your compliance expert who's going to be really helpful in one, making sure you get paid, two, that you're up to date with all of those types of things. And three, we also have the TBAD community of practice. We heard from Jason from SSTI earlier. So this will be an opportunity. You'll be receiving invitations and information from him to join the community of practice and have opportunity to collaborate with each other, with other EDA grantees in the tech-based economic development field, and so forth. And of course, we have you at the center of it. So if you ever need help in any way, you can always reach out to your ED points of contact, and we're going to be all working collaboratively to make sure that you feel supported in your project moving forward. Okay, so next steps. This is a long list, but an important one. So right now, your awards, like I said, like we've noted, when they are signed by EDA, most of yours are not yet. Your authorized representative, whoever is on file as the authorized representative who submitted your application, that person who pushed the submit button will receive an email from Edge letting you know that your award is ready to be signed. In this PowerPoint, we have the screenshots and the directions on how to sign that. After you sign the award, you're going to fill out the 2 forms for ASAP registration and enrollment to get your account set up. If you do not have ASAP set up, you cannot collect money. This is basically your federal bank account from EDA in order to accept that. So once you fill out those 2 forms, you're going to email it to your grants management specialist, and they're going to move forward to get that registered. 3, we're going to be sending out a grantee toolkit. So a lot of the things that we talked about here today, we have templates. It's going to have your reporting templates. It's going to have some of your payment templates. It's going to have some additional guidance. It's going to have procurement guidance. We're going to try to get that out to you by the end of the week, if not early next week, along with these slides and this recording, so that you can have all of that information. When in doubt, make sure you check your toolkit. There's probably a resource for it. And we're hoping to do some like future TA sessions around some of the particularly financials in the future. 4, get familiar with Edge and making sure that, get familiar with Edge. We have a lot of resources, as we talked about, so making sure you understand those different actions. This is your official file. It didn't happen in your grant unless it's documented in Edge, so want to make sure that you're familiar with it. Your grants management specialist will be reaching out to you in the next month or so for a one-on-one meeting, and this is where we're going to go over a little bit more in detail your specific award conditions and any compliance questions you might have. But yes, next thing is to make sure whenever you're done, again, all of this happens after you sign your award. After you sign your award, you're going to make sure you update Edge and your EDA project officer with your correct project management team for what we call post-award. So not your application team, but the team who's going to be managing and submitting all these reports. And then finally, don't forget to complete the fraud, waste, and abuse training and submit the signed completion certificates in Edge. The training is just is reading the document and then signing it. So it's not a webinar, it's just reading the slides. And then you should be ready to go. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to the TechHubs team at TechHubs.gov. I know a lot of you are already in contact with some of the grants management specialists who are helping you with budget curing and such and so forth. So you can always reach out to them as well to help get those questions processed. And that is it from our team today. Thank you all so much for attending. I don't think I see too many outstanding questions in the chat that haven't already been answered. And if you're unclear who your project officer, your grants management specialists are, they'll be reaching out to you. So we'll make sure that you guys have a clean project list. If you are also a designee your project officer for your designation, which is Misha or myself, you can continue to work with us on that as well. But that's it from us. Annie, anything else you want to add?
No, thank you so much for walking us through that. One thing just to underscore from all of this, we gave you a whole lot of information, and our intention behind all of these compliance forms and reports and so on and so forth is really like using them as a tool to enable your teams to do your work and our teams to have visibility into that work. And so it sounds like a lot. We're hoping to keep this as agile as we can. Your scopes of work are fairly broad. And so, we're really looking to make this a beneficial process, I think, for both of our teams. Thank you so much, Amanda and Misha, for walking us through all this. We're, very lucky to have you on our teams with your deep well of knowledge with all things grants management. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll be sending out the recording and the slides and any additional information within the coming days. Thanks. Bye.